When you're down on your luck, especially in this tough economy, you'll do anything to find a way to make ends meet. You might try out the gig economy and deliver food. Try out being a rideshare driver or even donate some plasma. None of those pay well and aren't particularly great work. You stumble across a surrogate agency and find out it pays pretty damn well to carry another intended family's embryo to birth. It's hard work and requires a decent amount of your lifetime. You decide to go for it, and what the hell? Money is money in this economy. But is that money worth it when disaster strikes and it turns out you are now legally embattled with an incredibly bitter and delusional tech millionaire? My name is June Sternbach.
My name is Josh Borman.
This is Ill-Conceived, a podcast about natalism. Josh, how are you doing today? Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. Do you like my new kitty cat ears?
I do. It's a really good look for you. I think it's very suiting. You know, your hair it's pretty long. Is this the longest your hair has ever been?
This is the longest that my hair has ever been, and I really need to keep it pulled back sometimes. So now I have this. It is fuzzy. It is soft. It's just a headband, but it also has kitty cat ears on it.
It's adorable.
Which I think is very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's soothing. We all need like soothe mechanisms these days.
Oh God, yeah.
It's tough out there, with the world and everything.
Are you saying you don't feel soothed right now when you look out the window?
I mean, I like the snow. I love snow. That soothes me, honestly. That's true. It's great out there. The weather, it's
reasonably
great.
Soothing.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Did I talk on the show about my ski trip and how I went skiing in Lake Placid? I genuinely can't remember.
No, I don't think you did.
No?
No.
Okay.
Tell me about your ski trip.
Oh, I would love I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
So I went up to Lake Placid in upstate New York and went skiing at Whiteface Mountain for the first time. That's a serious mountain. I don't think I realized just how tall it is. Like, it's not a very wide ski resort, but the vertical drop is very impressive. And once you get higher up, it gets steep. I was pushed to my limits by this mountain, and it was very exciting.
Oh my God. No, skiing is something that's always seemed genuinely very cool, but it's like, I've always been very scared of heights, like roller coasters. This is sort of different. You're not going to like fall from like 200 feet straight down on a ski hill or a mountain or anything like that, but it's still kind of scary to me.
I imagine going on the chairlift would not be particularly fun for you.
Oh, no, definitely not. I guess that would totally be the scariest part, but
yes.
All of it combined, just the speed, even though I think you can control it fairly well. Right off the top, before we get into even the world famous mailbag,
yes.
Josh, you came on my other podcast, Kill the Computer with Caleb.
That's right.
We all watched the new Melania movie, and we had some insane experiences. Without saying too much, we all had maybe the most insane theater experiences of all time. We all met different characters. We all had different main character moments, and it was genuinely the hardest I've ever laughed talking about maybe the most horribly boring movie I've ever seen.
So boring, but what we got out of it, I believe, is a truly delightful hour-ish of podcasting. In general, this weekend was a real study in contrasts for me, because not only did I have to talk about Melania, I also had to talk about the video game Kingdom Hearts on my podcast, The Worst of All Possible Worlds.
Sister series, so, really.
It was so much like yelling for me this weekend. I've somehow managed to preserve my voice in spite of all of it. But yeah.
Well, at the end of this one, you won't have anything left.
That's right. I'm going to have the last bit of my yelling that is left will finally leave me. My voice will be fully hoarse for the remainder of the weekend. I can't wait. And by weekend, I mean week. This is the kind of week I've been having too, where I'm just like, words,
Wednesday, Saturday.
I don't know.
Yeah. But no, please check that out. We had a lot of fun with it. I think you will too if you don't listen to my other show. It was a hoot.
A hoot and a holler.
With that out of the way, I think we should get to the mailbag. Josh, you pulled this from the fucking archives.
Yes.
This is a little bit of an old one.
Well, this was one here in our world famous mailbag, which, just to remind you, every week we read your letters. We want to hear from you about what you think about the show, your experiences connected to the subject matter that we talk about on the show. All you got to do is send an email to illconceivedpod@gmail.com. And we may very well end up reading your letter, either on the main show or on the B-sides. This particular one we got back in October, and I, at that time, marked it as we should read this one later because I knew that at some point we were going to cover this subject, surrogacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this email is titled Surrogacy Discussion. It's from Meg, and it reads as follows. Hi, June and Josh.
Got it. There we go.
Well
there
done,
we
June.
go.
Well done. An easy, clean win for you this week.
They call me the clean sweeper. Sorry.
Thanks for your great podcast, which I've found to be both deeply informative and thoughtful. I just listened to your Quiverful episode and had to immediately read the Wired article about surrogacy. 2 of my 3 children were born via gestational surrogacy, so I was bracing myself for something that would piss me off. But I'm glad somebody published this story. And just, I guess, a preview of coming attractions, we're going to be talking about that same Wired story in today's episode.
Absolutely.
Right?
It's fairly crucial in the later half of this episode, yeah.
I'm really hoping that you'll handle this topic with the care you've shown everything else, and keep in mind that most people who have children via surrogacy are not cartoon Silicon Valley villains, at least not yet. Well, we will absolutely do our best. I hope that we do the subject justice today. I resorted to surrogacy only after 5 pregnancy losses. Wow. Which is a pretty standard story in this space. That said, the fertility industry, including the surrogacy part of it, is absolutely fucked up, and I have a lot of guilt about my participation in it. My second surrogate, like the one in the Wired article, had a placental abruption when the baby was extremely premature. My daughter lived, but she and the woman who carried her almost died. I honestly can't imagine how I would have gone on with my life if our surrogate had died. And yes, I should have thought about that before pursuing surrogacy. It's the kind of thing you tell yourself won't happen, that the risks are minimal, that people have babies with no problem every day, etc. I had no idea until after I spent 7 weeks in a NICU with my daughter that surrogate pregnancies have a significantly higher risk of placental issues. Mm-hmm. We went through surrogacy twice, and no doctor or employee of the surrogacy agency said as much. All we ever heard was that surrogate pregnancies have better outcomes. That made sense to me, since surrogates have to be medically cleared and have a history of uncomplicated pregnancies. Neither of our surrogates was worried about additional risks. In fact, they were told that the risks were lower than in a naturally conceived pregnancy. I still don't think there's anything inherently wrong with surrogacy. I think it's fine that I paid other women to carry my children and fine that they chose to make money in that way. I don't buy the arguments that I should have adopted. The adoption industry is also very, very fucked, or just accepted that God or nature didn't want me to have kids. But I wouldn't do it again. I'd warn anybody considering it that the fertility industry has financial reasons to keep the risks opaque. And given how limited access to abortion has become since my last child was born, I simply couldn't ask another woman to risk a pregnancy without knowing she could terminate it safely. What really haunts me is that the entire endeavor of assisted reproductive technology is tainted by capital. I dream of a future where people who want children can have them when they want them, and where human bodies are protected from the dangers of childbirth. I want everybody to have safe and equal access to reproductive technology. Yes, these are convenient dreams now that I have my kids and I can reflect at my leisure. But I see things going in a direction where only the wealthiest, mostly white, people can afford assistive reproductive technology, where queer people are denied access to assistive reproductive technology, and where tech bros can have their fantasy of being 21st century Genghis Khans or Charlemagnes. Apologies for the super long email. I hope I don't come off as defensive or blind to reality. Surrogacy seemed like such a beautiful thing when I was trying so hard to have the kids I wanted, kids who brought me so much joy. My family is still close with both of the surrogates who gave birth to our kids. They are not just ambulatory wombs to me, but I have to live with the fact that they did something for me that put them in danger, and the industry I enriched with my money didn't protect them sufficiently. Best, Meg.
No, this is a great email. I think we're
going
to
real as fuck. Thank you for sending this.
The very, very vulnerable, very, very like. This is an experience a lot of people don't personally have. I mean, you've seen firsthand that, I guess, I don't want to say the dangers, but just, you know, the costs that come with surrogacy, the potential costs here. And we're going to be getting so much more into basically everything that you've talked about here, Meg, in this episode, you know, about the like capital ruling surrogacy and just like tech in general. I mean, that's sort of the through line of this season right now, is that like tech is putting their tentacles all over the place, especially in reproduction. And it's sort of, enshittifying the whole deal.
Yeah, they're promising these magical solutions, basically.
Yeah.
Because on some level, I think they want to believe that they're able to create a superior alternative without any downsides. But that's just not true. Everything has upsides and downsides, and it's important for us to talk about that.
100%. I mean, they will, these Silicon Valley tech leaders will promise that we're going to be colonizing the moon by 2023 or whatever. And of course, it doesn't happen. They will say anything to get that money, to get that investment, to get that funds.
And again, I said it at the beginning of the world famous mailbag segment, but it is your emails that keep our mailbag world famous. So whether you've got a personal story to share like this one, or just broader thoughts about what we're talking about, please let us know. Send your emails to illconceived@gmail.com.
Please send.
Please. Just Please clap.
Please send. All right, now let's talk a little bit about surrogacy. For me, this was something I didn't know too much about. Just like IVF, for me, I was sort of a blank slate. So for me, this was a great episode. I learned a lot with this one, and I'm ready to share it with you, and some of the weirdos that I found in between. So before we even start, let's get two useful terms out of the way right now, just so we can just get them under our belt, you know. So the first one is intended parent. That is parent or parents who are trying to hire someone as a surrogate to carry their child to birth. And the carrier is the person who is going to carry the intended parent's child in pregnancy and birth. Okay. So we'll be using intended parent and carrier throughout this episode. So if you hear either of those terms, we're talking purely like I guess this is a more legal term, just to denote who is who here.
Well, June, I wanted to say, as a former professional trainer, you did a great job of clearing those definitions, which if you work in learning theory, that's actually the foundational plank of all learning, is to do a good job of clearing definitions like that. So I just wanted to give you your kudos for that.
Oh, thank you. I was always told in college that I would be a good professor. I still don't entirely agree with that, but I guess maybe I see what people saw in me.
I don't know. I feel like our babies are our students in many ways, right?
Yeah. The parent that's researching the topic 2 days before the lesson is due.
That's right. That's right. The best way to do it.
Yeah. Regardless. So you might be asking yourself, what is surrogacy? Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever stayed up late at night and been like, God damn, I don't know what surrogacy is? Well, I think I
broadly knew myself. If that's a question for me, I think I sort of know.
Yeah.
But I don't think I know a lot about like how it works mechanically. Like obviously you implant an embryo into the body of the carrier, and they carry the pregnancy to term on your behalf.
Absolutely, yeah. So because it is a very like high level situation, I guess you could say, there is a lot of legal contracts involved. There is agreements that get made. The carrier has to get paid for this. This is like a contractual obligation. And a very timely one, too. So you're right. So the embryo gets created through the process of in vitro fertilization and gets implanted surgically into the carrier. If you want more, we're not really going to touch on IVF too much in this one, but we did very early on in the series, if you haven't gone back to the archives, an episode about IVF. Honestly, it would be a very good supplemental episode to this one. This episode will basically just build upon everything we talked about in that last episode. And like IVF, surrogacy is often used by individuals that struggle to conceive or can't. In this case, specifically for surrogacy, can't in any capacity conceive a child for complicated health reasons, or as the person in the email mentioned, different queer people. A lot of queer people have turned to surrogacy to have a genetically related child. In the case of like gay men, or even like, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of possibilities with that.
Right. I know that it's not uncommon, for instance, for a gay couple, for one of them to provide the sperm donation, and then the other man gets like their sister to provide an egg or something like that.
For sure. Just so it's like as close to genetically related as possible. And just out of curiosity, I personally don't, but do you know anyone that's in your life, personally, friend, whatever, that's had a surrogate child?
Not to the best of my knowledge, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. You know, not in every... No, you know what? I have actually. Sorry, I just just remembered. Yes. A friend of mine who I went to college with, he's gay. And he and his husband had a baby.
That's great. Yeah, no, a lot of queer people seem to use it. Which is great. I mean, that's amazing. I think it's beautiful that queer people can turn to surrogacy to have a child because, you know, there's a lot of problems in the adoption world. I don't think we've talked too much about like adoption and that whole industry. Maybe that'll be something interesting to talk about eventually because it's a very complicated topic, very sad in a lot of ways.
I also feel like adoption is one that we could have very much covered in season 1 because so much of the adoption industry is very tightly wound with evangelical Christians in much the same way that a lot of this surrogacy stuff is tightly wound with the tech natalists.
100%. Yeah. Well, maybe one day we'll have a season 1 redux or something.
We're making this shit up as we go along, folks. We're doing our best.
And just like that, I'm adding my own bits of made up information in this episode as well. It's your job as the student to find out what I'm lying about.
Which one? There are three lies scattered throughout this episode. Whatever listener identifies and emails the 3 lies to illconceived@gmail.com will be awarded the chonky baby for 1 month.
Oh my god! Wait, okay, yeah.
None of that is true.
No.
I am lying to you. That's
lie
the first lie.
Lie number 1. So, you know, I vaguely knew like what surrogacy was. I think everyone's vaguely aware of surrogacy, but I didn't know a lot of the history that led up to the point where we are right now. So I hit the archives, I hit the history books, and I found the first attempt at surrogacy in recorded history was a Danish trans woman who's an artist in about the 1930s who attempted several very early experimental uterus transplant surgeries in order to experience giving childbirth. But due to various complications, especially with how early this medical field was, she passed away due to organ rejection. Very sadly.
She was trying to implant a uterus inside of herself?
She was
transplanted from another person? That's crazy.
Yeah, so a doctor agreed to, it was, like I said, very experimental. They were trying to, implant the uterus and then implant I guess I would assume, I didn't dig deep enough, but I would have to assume they didn't have embryo technology then.
Oh, yeah.
I would assume, I would assume that it was, the uterus, and then that would allow her to get the capability to become pregnant. But that it didn't quite work out, sadly. But
I can see a number of reasons that wouldn't work out. And I have serious questions about the doctor who would perform such an operation at that time. I don't know.
The thing is like if you go far enough back, most medical science and research is sort of like that. It's all like, I guess I'm going to just do this crazy thing that we don't really know. Like they all sort of started somewhere, especially psychology, you know. A lot of early science didn't have across the board standards and regulations. But I find this really interesting as it's like a very wild part of early trans history that overlaps with cis women healthcare very tightly, especially because the very first successful uterus transplant that resulted in childbirth was just in 2014, just like 12 years ago. So this was sort of like an early stage in attempting uterus transplants.
I mean, that's so early. Like 1930, that is 2 years after the invention of penicillin. Like that gives you, a sense of just how crude medical technology was at the time, that they'd only just figured out antibiotics. That's wild.
Yeah, for the first time in history, 2 years prior, you wouldn't die if you get a paper cut. Like, that's crazy. So honestly, it's a miracle that she had several experimental surgeries and was still trucking along. Yeah. But no, there is a lot of very promising developments with uterus transplants, even for trans women, interestingly, going forward from a lot of from this field. And uterus implants, again, only been around for about 10 years, but have led to several dozen successful childbirths in the last 10 years. Very cool, very just one of those things about science, medical science, that is just sort of amazing that it's even possible that we can do shit like that.
I feel like talking about trans-affirming reproductive medical technology specifically could be really cool for another episode.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll get there. So we know what surrogacy is now, but like, what is the process? It seems very intimidating. If you are someone who wants a surrogate, if you want to have a child via surrogacy,
wait, that makes you an intended parent, right, teacher? I remember that's the definition, right? It's an intended parent.
Exactly, you're an intended parent.
Yes,
and you'll contact the surrogate agency, and through that agency, they'll have like a list of clients or carriers. Oh, that's another callback, where you can basically assess this list of carriers to choose who will eventually carry the embryo to birth. So there are two types of surrogacy one could embark on. There is gestational, which is the most common form, where the surrogate has no genetic connection to the baby. There is just a sperm and an egg, embryo created, implanted into the carrier. The other method, which you mentioned before, actually, is traditional. The surrogate uses her own egg or sperm and is biologically related to the child. And it's just less common due to legal and emotional complexities that could arise. Yeah. So, an intended parent, they have to entrust that their embryo, their child to be, has to have a reliable carrier, right? You get a list of carriers, you get photos attached, you get just some information attached about their life, about them physically, just the works. So you can pick the carrier based on physical traits, like how active and fit they look. Maybe they're tall. They're really tall, so you like that. So you might choose them because of that. Or even in some odd cases, I think, you can choose the race of the carrier. You can sort of just do whatever, as far as I'm aware. There are probably some agencies that have some restrictions on some of these, but as we'll get into a little bit later, a lot of surrogate agencies are not really regulated. Right. I think the only state that has strong regulations is New York.
Well, and I'm already feeling a little uncomfy hearing about this. I'm already like, this has the potential to reinforce some really bad socio-political dynamics. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's like you can already, this is a seed being planted for later. You can tell. Yeah. I think for the most part, it's not really abused in that way like you would expect, at least as far as I could tell, especially because the carrier is going to often be genetically unrelated, so it doesn't really matter to the same degree as another weird genetic instance would be.
The only thing I would really ever care about, I think, with regard to a surrogate is like, is this person healthy? Like that's the thing that matters. Is this person healthy? Are they living a healthy lifestyle? And are they free of conditions that could complicate the pregnancy?
And this industry, the surrogate industry, is still in its infancy. The very first successful surrogate birth was just in 1985, which is just barely 40 years ago today, which is also 7 years after the first successful instance of IVF, which is, again, as we know, a crucial part of the surrogacy process. And due to how new this is, the legal contracts between intended parents and carriers had a lot of holes in them, especially early on, which has led to one of the most notable surrogacy legal battles in the case titled Baby M. People in those days
Baby Mario.
Baby Mario.
He rides on the back of Yoshi, and if he gets hit by like a shy guy, he goes into a big bubble in the air. I remember this guy.
That's the embryo. Yeah. And then Yoshi has to pop the embryo.
Right. Okay.
And then baby Mario gets born again. He's a born again baby.
To me, this seems pretty open and shut. I'm not sure what the legal issue would be.
Well, the American legal system is very complex. So in 1986, a surrogate mother got an implanted embryo using the intended father's sperm, but after birth decided that she wanted to keep the baby.
Oh.
Which is, I think, kind of crazy. So like you got in this contract. Again, it was early. The contracts weren't super like laid out yet. But imagine you're like, yeah, I'll carry your baby. I'll take the sperm from your husband. But then I'm going to take the baby. That's kind of crazy. That's stealing a baby, essentially.
Who did the egg belong to? Do you know?
I think this was a traditional.
Okay.
I think this was a traditional instance. I didn't look too deep into it, but I think this was, if I could recall,
definitely.
This is an instance where the mother couldn't conceive.
Right. Okay. So it was in vitro fertilization, but it was the surrogate whose egg was used in the IVF process as well, of course, as the implantation.
Right. So the dispute was see, it's my egg.
Right.
But it's the husband's sperm. So whose baby really is it? She decided she wanted it.
And if the contract isn't clear, if there isn't something in black and white dictating what the thing is, obviously, traditionally, it would just be the mother, particularly if she has a genetic claim on the kid.
Exactly, yeah. So despite that, it's very complex. But after a long, lengthy court battle, the intended parents did win custody rights of the child. And due to this wild case, it did lead to an acceleration of the development of legal contracts for surrogacy. And the legal realm of surrogacy didn't really hit a breakthrough until another similar legal custody case happened in 1990. So that was when the rubber hit the road. And since then, surrogacy has expanded to most of the United States, but does have some various restrictions, but not banned. There's not a single state where it's technically banned. So the 3 states where it's definitely the hardest to get surrogacy approved of is Louisiana, Indiana, and Nebraska. And after just briefly looking into it, I didn't really focus too much on the religious angle today, but we will get a little bit into it. But it does seem to be that it is primarily due to religious beliefs in these states that have led to the restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, that tracks for all 3 of those states, Louisiana, Indiana, and Nebraska. You know Indiana, June. I know you know Indiana.
Spiritually southern coded state in the Midwest.
Yeah.
With Louisiana, it's the most heavily restricted of any state in this country.
What do those restrictions look like?
So, of course, you might be able to guess. You have to be married and heterosexual couple
yes.
are using their own egg and sperm.
Okay.
So it's very particular. You have to basically prove that you're straight. They make you have straight sex in front of them. Otherwise, it's a no-go.
They get to sit in a chair and watch.
Yeah, there's every surrogate agency in the state has a third chair in the corner. They call it the surrogate's chair.
In 49 of 50 states, it's called the cuck chair, but Louisiana's a little different.
It's very odd there. I've never been there. I imagine it's great. It's a great state. Pretty much anywhere else other than Louisiana, you're good to go, though. And as of 2026, the estimated amount of surrogate births is somewhere between 90,000 to 100,000 total, which is not a lot.
When you say total, that's the number that has ever happened in the United States?
Yes, the number ever, which is a lot less than I would have assumed, to be completely honest with you.
Well, particularly after Obergefell v. Hodges, because obviously once gay marriage was more normalized, nationally, that led to the creation of more sort of traditional nuclear families with 2 gay parents.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I think it's due to several things. 2 of those being that it is still, again, a rather new operation. And it's a fairly lengthy one, and it's a fairly complicated one. And not only is it just complicated and lengthy, but it's also very costly. It might be one of the most expensive forms of giving childbirth just in the United States. So when intended parents choose to do surrogacy, they have to pay basically anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 on average to the carrier, mostly depending on just different services they might provide. Maybe sometimes intended parents might help with food, maybe help with care services, just various different things. Also, as a part of the carrier intended parent agreement. It's a very wide ranging thing.
So those costs, the payments to the carriers, in a lot of cases, I'm assuming that these are probably individually negotiated between the intended parents and the carriers. But it also sounds like there is a bit of an industry here that is going to be assisting throughout this entire process, particularly with the, IVF side of things. So my question is, do these companies that do this, who also then pair the intended parents with the carriers, are they also taking care of the contracts around terms and also payment?
They are, yeah. They are pretty heavily involved in legal contracts with both sides of the clients, just because, again, as we saw in the past, in the 80s and 90s, it can get pretty hairy between the intended parents and carriers, especially in the realm of childbirth. If you sort of give that responsibility to another person, childbirth is already a very emotionally taxing and very intense experience. So when you have like another person, things can just get very complicated if you don't have all of it down to a contract. And you are also right that a lot of it is individually negotiated between the intended parents and the carriers. Just like in the opening email, a lot of people continue to talk between themselves long after the carrier gives birth. A lot of it is on good terms, but of course it can get very hairy in some cases, which one of them will be one of the most notable bad situations in regard to the intended parents and carriers we'll be talking about very soon. With a lot of these contracts, especially because there's a lot of setup, there's a lot of like aftercare. There is generally a lot of these contracts last somewhere between 14 to 20 months.
Oh, that's interesting.
It can be up to 2 years long of someone's life. Yeah.
What accounts for that extra time?
Just like getting settled. Like the intended parents sometimes will want to meet. They'll often meet, actually. I've read a few instances of intended parents helping with medical costs and like paid leave after childbirth too. So it usually tracks fairly similarly to like family leave.
Well, and obviously postpartum expenses and costs. I can see then how you would want all of those things enumerated because, you know, as great as a handshake is, it's what's on paper that dictates what's really going to happen.
Exactly. And you probably want to be on good terms both ways.
Right.
In this very intense multi-year long experience. So, as we know, Christians in the United States love having opinions. So, very briefly, we're just going to go over some of the various opinions that Christians in particular in the United States have about surrogacy. But before we do that, I have a game for you, Josh.
Okay.
You love a game. I think we both love a game.
We love games. We love lists. And we love our babies. Those are the three things that we love.
Absolutely. And we're doing a game right now. I want you to guess what you think and why they think what the Catholic Church thinks about surrogacy.
I think they would say that it is immoral. I think that given what their opinions are on IVF, this is kind of building on top of it and abstracting an additional layer. And they are probably very unhappy with it in the vast majority of cases. That's my guess.
Absolutely. You got it. You won. You won today. You're the winner.
Wow.
No, again, just like most medical advances, the leadership in the Catholic Church is generally not okay with it. They don't like things to advance medically or scientifically. So they do think it's immoral. Very predictably, I think. And with Protestants, it's basically, again, similar to their views on IVF insofar as that they don't really have laid out decreed views on surrogacy as well.
If it's anything like their opinions on IVF, it's fine if we do it, but they better not be fucking doing it, right?
Yeah. I mean, just look at Louisiana. It's legal, but only if you meet their standards of heterosexual. I was doing some digging, and there are a lot of Christian, Protestant particularly, websites and guidance on surrogacy. So they talk about it.
Does Focus on the Family have a position on surrogacy?
I didn't check. Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's take a look. We'll both see who can get there first. All right, surrogacy. Perspectives on surrogate motherhood. Here we go. Oh, they're not happy about it.
Oh, really?
I'm looking at an everyday parenting Q&A called Perspectives on Surrogate Motherhood. Like you, we feel tremendous compassion for childless couples, and we can understand why some want to do whatever it takes to hold a child in their arms. Still, we'd discourage arrangements involving surrogacy. The questionable nature of surrogacy should raise red flags for those who want to follow the Lord's plan for human procreation. Oh. And then it talks about how God created marriage, sex, conception, and childbirth, but modern science oversteps those boundaries. That's sounding very fucking Catholic, actually.
That is. That's actually not entirely in line with their own view with IVF.
I know.
IVF, they're like, we can maybe do it. But this one, they're like, no, this is like a line in the sand
I don't know,
for focus on the family.
And maybe different people wrote these different articles. Is it possible that couples who use surrogacy are essentially guilty of adultery or a breach of the marriage covenant? Do we fully understand the implications of turning conception and childbearing into services for hire? Even the idea of renting a womb is ethically questionable.
Actually, that is something I did see is a lot of the religious opposition to surrogacy is that they do liken it to renting out a body, renting out a womb, which is interesting because it like if you take away the religious aspect of it, I mean, it's like kind of what it is. Like conceptually, that is kind of what it is.
But you have to understand that their angle is not to do with the way that markets treat bodies more generally tends to work in certain ways, and certain bodies are given higher market value than others and blah, 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 right?
Yeah,
what they're saying is you don't truly have control or agency over your body. Only God does. And you are, desecrating this holy thing by releasing it into the marketplace. Exactly. Your body is a temple type shit.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
They liken that to fucking cheating on your spouse, to just desecrating your body. That's crazy.
Yeah, this article is buck wild. This is not what I was expecting from Focus on the Family.
Me either. Especially because I did see, I came across a couple of websites that were like religiously neutral and positive about surrogacy. That's interesting. And see, that's sort of, I think, very, very illustrative of Protestants generally on this topic.
Yeah, I've even got one more. So this is from Daily Citizen, which is their website and newsletter that are like, here's what's going on in public policy that you need to talk about. Just for an example over here on the right side, their most recent article is Turning Point USA announces the All-American Halftime Show lineup, in case you were wondering what kind of shit's going on over here. But it does say right here, Focus on the Family affirms all surrogacy, genetic, gestational, altruistic, and contractual is morally wrong.
Oh my God.
So this wasn't just a position by one person in that paper. That is the organizational position.
That's kind of wild that they drew the line in the sand that this is specifically immoral. Something I did see among evangelicals in particular that had a problem with surrogacy is they seemed to elevate to a degree that is, I think, a lot more scaremongering than it needs to be about potential complications with surrogacy.
Well, that's just like what they do with abortion.
Absolutely. Where they're like, oh, you're going to die. Everything's going to go super wrong if you do this.
It's not that there aren't any risks at all. It's just that the risk profile for these things needs to be understood in its actual proper context. And as with everything, the risks are different depending on the body in question.
The religious leadership, because I guess you could view Focus on the Family as like a level of leadership. They're at a higher degree.
Yeah, they're one of the more
random
influential evangelical Christian organizations, and I would say it's in most cases it's safe to say that their position represents kind of the median evangelical view. That's sort of what they exist for.
Especially politically, politically influential too. Like this, generally politicians reflect, like religious politicians reflect Focus on the Family fairly well.
Right, because they're the ones who help get them organized and get them elected, I should say.
I think that's especially interesting because I found a poll. I wanted to see where just like the average American, because like many things, the average American doesn't always exactly fall in line with religious leadership on a lot of things. So the most recent poll I could find that specifically measured religious Americans' thoughts on surrogacy was from a YouGov poll in 2015. So I'm quoting it here. Americans who say that religion is very important to them are the only group in America without majority support for commercial surrogacy. But even they still back it 48% to not supporting it at 31%, which is like still fairly mixed.
Yeah, but that is almost half. It's effectively half statistically. Yeah.
I think it's hard, especially for something that is like so like scientifically interesting and great for mothers who can't conceive of children. I think that sort of outweighs in the average person's mind than like what Focus on the Family specifically might say about surrogacy.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think in general, when you're talking about Protestant organizations, you need to understand that their views are not intended really to capture what their membership even believes, right? They are intended to be a policy guideline to keep the people who they provide power to in check, right? It's basically being like, this is the allowable window of rhetoric around this particular issue.
Yeah, no, I think evangelicalism is more policy than religion at this point, especially in 2026. Yeah, yes. Absolutely. So, the average religious American still fairly supportive. And I think, the success of surrogacy is genuinely sort of a miracle of modern science. It's very cool. The potential for maybe trans uterus implants in the future that could lead to trans birth is so cool. That's so fucking amazing. But there are some downsides to the use of surrogacy or potential harms with surrogacy. So compared to natural conception, carrying a genetically unrelated fetus more than triples the risk of severe and potentially deadly conditions.
Oh, wow.
Again, triples sounds very extreme, but it's still fairly low in terms of like the potential of it.
The vast majority of pregnancies, vast majority of pregnancies are going to go down just fine.
Yeah.
So like that is a tripling of a very low number in absolute terms, but in relative terms, yeah, that's very significant.
It's a significant difference. And if there are like any complications, it's generally due to poor embryo quality that was created during the IVF process or complications due to the implantation process, which is a fairly complex procedure all the way through. And there can also be complications if the donor is older. So there's just like a lot of factors that are just compounded on with the extra steps with the surrogacy process. Despite all of these different problems, though, success rates for surrogate child implantations that lead to birth are still extremely high. They're sitting somewhere between like a 75 to 80% success rate, which is extremely good. That's a very, very good success rate.
And success in this capacity obviously means that the pregnancy is successfully carried to term and given birth. When these pregnancies fail, do you know when in the process that's most often tending to happen?
Most failures during surrogacy generally are during the implantation phase of the embryo. Yeah.
So it's really like before there's even a fetus, basically, or like very, very early on in fetal development.
Very early on, usually caught fairly quickly. Absolutely. And not just like physical problems, but I found some cases, some studies that would go into, like the emotional aspect of this, because you're carrying a child still. You're going into it with the idea that you're going to hand it off eventually. That's still very taxing on your body, your mind. That's a whole process that you are going through.
And also emotionally, like a lot of that is just, it's not even what you're thinking about. Like you can't rationalize your way out of something that your entire body and hormones are telling you to feel,
Exactly. 100%. And you don't know how you might feel going into it, how you're going to feel later on, like in the midst of all of it. It's a very complex thing. And since surrogacy is still fairly new and very pricey, it does lock out the average American from easily accessing this method of childbirth. Surrogacy is growing more popular in Silicon Valley, of course, right now, too. A lot of companies out there, some of the largest financial tech companies in the country, encourage surrogacy by giving 5-figure paid subsidies to their employees to use the service.
Yeah, I was curious about this, actually. So I just went and looked up like companies that offer surrogacy benefits. And I have an article here by a company called Hatch, which is an egg donation and surrogacy company. And they made an article called The Best Companies for Surrogacy Benefits in 2026.
That's perfect for us.
Yeah, exactly. NVIDIA offers 100% surrogacy coverage. Ooh. They will pay for everything. Estee Lauder offers up to $150,000. Snap, the developers of Snapchat, $80,000. Netflix, $75,000. Disney, $75,000. Morgan Stanley, $75,000. Meta, $50,000. Deloitte, Gilead, Genentech, like these
Like
are a lot of
everything out there.
the big, if you are working for one of the companies that is driving the S&P 500, they probably provide a benefit like this.
Yeah, it's like huge out there right now. I think a lot of these people in the tech world have used it. Sam Altman notably used surrogacy and now is a father as of February of 2025.
Well, and, I mean, you think about a company, right? Like this is kind of a win-win situation if you're an employer and you can do that kind of a cash outlay, because paying $150,000 out of pocket, if you have employees who bring in each like millions of dollars worth of revenue every year, that's a very shrewd calculation, particularly if they are women and otherwise would have to be out pregnant.
Exactly. This sort of, in a way, skirts around time off, family paid leave.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, especially think of it this way, whenever you see anyone from Silicon Valley, from the Bay Area talk in any way about work, they're always talking about how they're working all the time. They won't stop working. Their entire life focuses around work. They go to parties where it's just like people that work in their same industry and they talk about their coding. Their entire life is this. So like, of course, it makes sense that they're not really going to traditionally prioritize like a child, because they probably don't want to take time off from work. They probably would rather like do surrogacy and continue working.
Yeah, exactly. It's so, you want to be like, oh, great. You know, people who otherwise would be unable to conceive now have the ability to have kids. Isn't that great? But you just know that for most people who are at sort of this station, that is not why they are going to be using this. And also, to be clear, I'm not saying that like you need to be in a situation where you are infertile to use surrogacy. Right. What I am saying is that for your company to be pressuring you into using this, which I believe is what is happening,
I do too,
is morally abominable.
It's, yeah, I don't know if I would say, I don't know if I would go as far as morally abominable, but it is very, it falls in line with the tech world, the modern capitalist mindset of infinite growth forever, right? Like I think it
is abominable. You're talking about. I really
actually,
do.
no, you know what? Actually, you're right, because no, you're right. This is what it is. It's like, okay, now that we're at a level of wealth and power, we will now Uber our baby onto someone else. We're just gonna we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. We're gonna just like rent this other person out for our purposes, to expand our bloodline.
And to be clear, like, I think that for the people who are using the service, I'm not saying that is necessarily abominable. What I am saying is that for the companies to be pressuring people into giving every piece of their body to their employer, including these hours that they otherwise would be spending, you know, they're not going to be also being like, oh yeah, your surrogate just gave birth to your kid. You want to go do 12 months of parental leave? That's fine. I can guarantee you that shit's not fucking happening. They've managed to create a mindset where people optimize their entire lives around how much surplus value they can deliver to their employer. And I think it's fucking sickening.
It's, you know, continuing late stage capitalism moment. That's what this is. Absolutely. It's worrying. It's concerning. We continue to sign ourselves off to work more and more under capitalism, under these circumstances. And it's like surrogacy, very cool, but leave it to the fucking tech world, the Silicon Valley fucking elites, to sort of taint something that is genuinely fairly cool.
Yeah, because it's not really about anything other than optimizing yourself more. Right. Like,
and that's like everything to them. It's about optimizing their baby. It's about optimizing their work. It's about optimizing everything, their genetic code.
I mean, yeah, you can have your best baby, right?
You can have your best baby, and
somebody else can have your best baby, and then you get it from them.
Exactly. No, we got best baby Uber services. Speaking of best babies, actually, we're gonna get back into the genetics of it all, related to, of course, surrogacy. I was
peeping that outline, June. I did that pivot on purpose.
That was a good pivot. That was it. You set me up. You put you lobbed the ball, and I
tipped it up.
Yeah, I just hit it.
There you go.
This is why you're great to work with.
That's the sound of you hitting the ball out the park.
I'm pointing at it right now too. But yeah, so of course, you know, again, leave it to the tech world to make things kind of insane. So there is this thing. There was this great piece that, in doing research for this article, that talked about actually, hold on, how will I say this?
Take a breath. Do it again.
In doing research for this episode, I found an interesting article from someone who lives in San Francisco who like frequents, of course, a lot of the tech world. And she was at a party and she ran into someone who mentioned that she has a super baby.
Oh, hell yes.
Like
I'm
she
seeing this.
said super baby. Do you want to read it?
I would love to read a few paragraphs from this because this is really, really cool.
Please do. It's a great article. Yeah.
This is from the San Francisco Standard, article by Margot McColl titled Silicon Valley Wants to Help Me Make a Super Baby. Should I let it? Most people haven't met a super baby. I have. Last year, I attended a cocktail hour at a venture capitalist's Presidio mansion filled with founders from his firm's portfolio companies. As the entrepreneurs lounged on couches, sipping craft cocktails and pitching their wealth management software and AI security systems, conversations suddenly sputtered. The investor's wife, a startup founder herself, descended the grand white staircase, cradling the night's real headliner. Here's my super baby, the investor cooed, taking the cherubic newborn from his wife's arms. The couple had told me weeks earlier that they had given birth to the super baby using in vitro fertilization and a surrogate. They had screened their embryos with Orchid, a genetic testing startup that charges upward of $2,500 per embryo to test for polygenic conditions, complex diseases caused by the combined effect of many genes like bipolar disorder or Alzheimer's. Though the super baby drooled and babbled like a regular infant, he was as genetically optimized as current science will allow.
No, the entire piece, I think it's genuinely hilariously written.
Yeah, you have a knack for finding really good articles. The tone is kind of reminding me of that article we read, I think in one of the B-sides about sperm racing.
Oh my, I love the sperm racing. I'm still obsessed about the sperm racing. We'll have to do a sperm racing update someday. Yeah. But yeah, no, this one like really caught my attention right away, that it's like, okay, there is like, not only is the tech world in our episode about like eugenics, we talked about how people are beginning to try to select for the best baby, for their best baby. So now it's like, it's not even just that they're selecting for their own best baby, their own most genetically pure best baby. They're all also doing that and then having that baby implanted in someone else as a surrogate to carry that baby, which I think is just like, it's sort of an insane thing to think about, that there is a level of wealth, because I think you read in that article that it costs $2,500 each embryo to analyze the genetics of a potential baby, which is crazy.
That's
the
wild.
average person cannot do that. The average person will never be able to just drop that amount of money.
Well, and also on top of that, like, this isn't the kind of genetic testing that we talked about in the biology episode, where they are testing for things that you can actually predict one-to-one because they're based on genetic defects, right? Things like, for instance, cystic fibrosis or sickle cell anemia, right? No, these are...
This is more insane.
Yes.
This is a step further. This is like predicting whether or not your child will have type 2 diabetes based on trends in humans that have had type 2 diabetes. It's not something you can for sure 100% predict. We don't have that capability yet. So what they will do, they will take a look at like what genetic markers tend to align with people that get certain diseases like breast cancer, type 2 diabetes, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anything you can think of. And they won't tell you that you will for sure have an offspring that will have these. What they'll do is they will send you like, oh, you got your baby has a 33% chance of having this.
Confidence intervals?
Literally, it's confidence intervals. There is like, so in this article, she was curious to see if there was consistency between different genetic predictive companies. So she went to Nucleus and Orchid.
Now, Nucleus, of course, that's the one that we've talked about a few times now. They're the ones who allow you to have your best baby, who put up the subway signs at the station that's by my gym. Yeah.
So it turns out they're one of these places, which I think we knew, that doesn't for sure let you know about like some of these disease potentials. It's just the range. They give you a range, a percentage number likelihood. They can't guarantee, but they can sort of give you a number that might determine.
Yeah, these numbers are bullshit, though.
They are totally bullshit. There's especially the one from Orchid. Especially the one from Nucleus. It's like a multi-percent range. It's like, I mean, this isn't very specific here.
We have actually, I see two different screenshots from the same test from the same company.
So no, actually, really quick, the one on the left is Orchid. The one on the right is Nucleus.
Oh, that's
so they're
what
different
that is.
companies.
Okay.
Different companies. Yeah,
they're different companies. I'm sorry, but and so in some cases the numbers align fairly closely. In other cases, they're completely fucking different. Like, and I'm seeing from the article too. Both Nucleus and Orchid use proprietary models to assign their risk scores, and Nucleus incorporates more factors into their scores. So I expected the results to be slightly different. But unlike Nucleus's report, Orchid's claimed that based on my genetics, I had a below average shot at developing type 2 diabetes, 23%, versus Nucleus's claim of 53.8%. And while Nucleus gave me an 8.6% risk score for breast cancer, Orchid insisted my risk score was over 3 times higher. Several scores for my husband were dramatically different too. Nucleus told him he had a 65.6% risk of coronary artery disease. Orchid said 26%.
So it's like, really, what is this? There is no real level of consistent precision in any of these predictions, but they will still sell you this as if there is a level of predictive nature here.
Not only is it not predictive, it's not falsifiable, right?
Right, yeah.
What the fuck does it mean if I take a test that says that I have a 3% lifelong risk of IBS, and then I develop IBS, right? Well, I can't be like, wait, but you said I wouldn't get it, because they didn't say I wouldn't get it. They said that there was a 3% chance.
And technically, that's like, they're right. You got it. Like, you can't be like, well, yeah, you can't yell at them for that. What this is essentially is just poly market for your baby. This is prediction markets for human beings. This is crazy to me.
I want to be able to bet on it.
This is crazy to me.
Give me the ability to go to Kalshi and bet on this shit. That's what I want.
Will my baby? Holy shit, dude. No, you just spoke something awful into existence. 1 year from now, they will allow you to upload genetics and be like, based off of this information, do you think this baby will develop brain cancer or something like that?
Baby betting markets.
There will be one day, before all this shit gets shut down, there will be baby betting markets on Kalshi. I promise you. Oh God, you've tainted me with this thought.
Who will be the baby of the year?
No, so like this technology, Silicon Valley gets involved, and it's fucking they're off to the races with the depravity that they can think of.
What kind of sickness of the soul would you need to have to do anything like this? You know,
I think generally, I think it's an interesting concept to, especially because to give maybe these companies just a handful of credit is, it's like a lot of this is new. Maybe they're doing research to determine for sure if you'll develop breast cancer. Like, I'm sure there's someone out there is probably working on that, but to sell this as a service,
that's my point.
Before it's certain is crazy.
Exactly.
Like, that's crazy.
My issue is not to do with anything to do with research, testing, or anything like that, because this is how science develops, right? But the product that they are offering is not just bullshit. It's impossible. Like,
yeah.
And this is the thing that's Silicon Valley always does, right? Is that they look at something and they're like, how can I monetize this? It might be helpful to know that your genetics indicate that you're more likely than not likely to develop a certain thing.
Yeah.
But that's very fucking different from this weird ass, like, let's test every embryo to see what the probability is that they are going to end up developing this thing later on in life. Because that's just not...
That's money down the drain.
It's not real. It's money down the drain. You're not having your best baby. You're giving a bunch of people money to choose between a number of embryos that ultimately are, assuming that they're from the same donors, are all going to be kind of different versions of the same thing, because that's how this shit works.
Yeah. No, I think
I'm so mad that I can't put this into words. You know what I mean?
I get it. I think it's just like, this is sort of a commodification of the human body in a way, and of babies in a way, like, or embryos in these instances, where it's like, okay, this isn't even like, we don't know. You will never know. But yet they're profiting off of someone's potential child. It's just crazy. It's crazy. Endless transactions. Everything has to be a transaction for these people. And so far, this episode has actually had everything to do with natalism. But of course, it wouldn't be ill-conceived if we didn't find some real specific maniacs involved with any given topic we dig into.
Oh, did you find a guy?
So I found a woman, but that led me to multiple guys.
Okay.
It led me to a brand new, I feel like, potential natal con moment for us.
Oh, fuck yes. I mean,
and I'm so excited. I'm so excited to tell you about them.
A point of clarification here. A woman is a type of guy. Women are my favorite guy.
That's a good point. Actually, no discrimination, of course. Obviously, yeah. So due to the legally complicated nature of surrogacy, there's a lot of contracts. It takes a long time to complete the process. Oftentimes during the surrogate process, there are confidentiality clauses and different information that is not to be made public per the contract, and it's especially related to about the carrier in particular. So since the intended parents generally will be a little bit wealthier than the carrier, if something goes wrong with the surrogacy, they'll have a lot more means, money, and connections to put together legal cases to sue potential carriers given disaster. So enter our guy for this episode is Cindy B. So this is sort of what that entire Wired piece is about that was mentioned in the mailbag early on. This is, I think, maybe one of the most notable examples in modern days, since like the 80s with Baby M, of just like a wild surrogate situation that popped off and has people, I think, revisiting what surrogacy means and just like looking at different laws and like surrounding this, because I do highly recommend, we'll talk about this piece a little bit here, but I do highly recommend you read this piece if you have not yet. It's a very upsetting, very, very good piece, a really well put together piece. So Cindy B, she is a multimillionaire venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. Those who know moment.
That's a real those who know moment.
Yeah. Cindy chose the surrogate carrier for several reasons. The main ones being, in her words, this is from the article, she was interviewed for this, that she was tall, healthy, young, had a good job.
Okay.
She did have some reservations, though, at the time. That being, in her words again, this is a quote from her. I showed her off to my friends, her being the carrier.
What?
Like she showed pictures of her, like different statistics, different things about her. But then she says, the only thing I was concerned with was that she's a single mom, but I saw past it. And just first off, I think it's weird that like she is saying this about a human being that she like showed her off.
That's what.
Like,
that's why I said what. That's like what you do with a dog.
Yeah, like a cow. Like you're bringing it to like a Ren fair or something like that, right? Yeah.
I went to the state fair and I showed off my surrogate. She's so beautiful.
I said Ren fair. Bring a cow to a Ren fair.
Is that what you do?
A state fair. Yeah, a state fair. Bring a cow to a state fair, not a Ren fair.
No. I really like the idea of you showing up to the Renaissance fair with a cow. And everyone's just looking at like, what the fuck? What do you want me to do with this?
We don't judge these here.
We're judging you.
But so very weird like way to think about another human being. I think straight off the bat, it sort of gives some insights into her. And during the entire pregnancy, Cindy would post different health and pregnancy updates about the carrier in parenting and surrogacy groups online. And she was like very active online. We're not going to go over a lot of it here, but you can find fairly well documented like posting history. I found one on Reddit where she just was like, she posted so much stuff. And then after this article came out, she had a really public meltdown on Twitter back in September 2025.
Fuck yeah.
So at the time, I saw her melting down. A lot of people were posting about her and quote tweeting it. I had no idea. I didn't read this piece until after I saw that. And then I read this piece and I was like, oh my God, that was Cindy B. That was the Cindy I saw melting down online. So she's like very active online. She's a true poster. And
to be honest, that piece of it makes me respect her more. I will respect anybody who has the poster spirit. But
like she has the poster spirit, but she is breaking contract by posting different health updates. And
I don't respect that at all.
That's the part that's like, oh. So like she's a little wild. She's a little out there.
You wild for that one, Cindy.
Yeah.
Posting the health updates in violation of NDA. Cindy was crazy for that one.
She was great, low key wild. She was
low key nutty.
And so this is where this story takes a turn. Their carrier went into premature birth at around 29 weeks, which is 10 weeks earlier than normal. And after the birth, it was fairly complicated, but a couple of days after, the baby tragically passed away. So very sad. And, it's a tragedy. It was a tragedy probably for the carrier, but especially like Cindy and her husband. Losing a child's not easy. I've never gone through that. I don't know anyone who's gone through this either, personally, very well. But it's probably, it affects them. It really affects you emotionally and mentally.
Yeah. I mean, I have friends who have miscarried like their own pregnancies, and it's always tragic. And having something like this where I guess it sounds like the baby was born, but then died pretty soon thereafter in the NICU. But I'm going to guess what happens next, given everything that we've been hearing so far. Did she turn around and sue her surrogate?
She did. So not only did she start to sue her, she started to post even more about her, doxed her, posted her personal information, accused the carrier of kidnapping and killing her son.
What?
Like going the full stretch here, going wild, accused her ex-partner of being physically abusive towards her while pregnant, like physically attacking her based on absolutely nothing, of course.
Wait, she accused her husband of being physically violent toward the surrogate?
Let me clarify. Cindy, I'll say this again. Cindy accused the carrier's ex-partner of physically abusing the carrier while pregnant. Which is crazy. She didn't have any evidence of that. Not true.
Okay.
There was some blood early on in the pregnancy, and then during the birth that was questionable. But basically, a lot of this stemmed from improper communications between the surrogacy agency doing like back and forths. From this article, it seems like the carrier did everything in her power to communicate with Cindy. They were also in constant communication during the pregnancy. They were on good terms at the time. But basically, this just sent Cindy off the fucking deep end. She just lost her shit and started accusing the carrier of so much different shit. And again, like I mentioned up top there, she decided to sue the carrier. And it looks like, though not very successful, she is still attempting to do this to the carrier. The carrier has gotten like a couple of restraining orders. And it's interesting because like you'd think, this multi-millionaire venture capitalist, like, you'd think that she would be able to pull something together. But she, from most recent update that I could find, she doesn't actually really do too much with venture capitalism anymore. She doesn't really like fund a whole lot of stuff anymore. She claims to have lost a lot of her money and doesn't has less than like probably $1 million or so, like 6 figures at this point. So she is like sort of just completely lost it and trying to lose the carrier's life. I think her new thing is that she wants to get like intended parents' rights more codified. She's not against surrogacy, but she is sort of taking the surrogacy industry like head on, like legally speaking.
But so she has not succeeded.
She has not
in this suit so far, and it's been ongoing for a while.
Like I think 6 or 7 months, actually probably close to a year at this point.
Have there been any broader effects as a result of this in terms of like law? I just imagine that something like this happening would tend to lead lawmakers to be like, we ought to legislate something to prevent a situation like this from happening in the future, because that's really messy.
Yeah, not that I've seen so far. I tried to do a little digging. There hasn't been like a wave of new calls for stricter laws or anything. Not to restrict surrogacy, of course, but to I think broaden the rights for carriers. I haven't seen big movement for that currently, no.
Because I'm not obviously privy to all of the facts of the case, but it would seem to me very difficult to make a case that the carrier had done anything other than the best that she could do, you know? Like, to me, this feels like somebody who is going through grief about the loss of a child and the loss of the money to a lesser extent, but also that, you know, like this is a long-term time and money investment. And now this woman, Cindy, has lost a child. And rather than grieving and eventually moving on, she has decided to ruin this woman's entire life because she is unwilling to grieve herself.
You know, I haven't seen much movement, like I said, but I think it's just like a wild example of just like how the class distinctions between the intended parents and carriers, right? Like, as we were talking about before, it's like she has so much more at her expense. She has lawyers already. Like, she had lawyers just because she was, I don't know, I assume if you're in financial tech, you probably just have lawyers on staff. You probably just do.
Right.
And like the carrier, she was just like she was just looking for extra money. Like, she was just, you know, that's
also, even having those resources, you still do have to pay for it at the end of the day. And nobody has infinity money except for like Elon Musk. My question is, how did the carrier pay for her defense? Does the article talk about it at all?
Yeah, a lawyer picked up the case pro bono and is the one supporting her through this. Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, from what it seems like, the carrier that's been being targeted by Cindy has come out of this relatively financially and legally unscathed. Probably very emotionally harmed through all of this.
Oh God,
I have to admit. But you know, other than that, I think she's mostly fine.
I think Cindy owes her damages.
I think maybe when this comes to a close, maybe that will be the case.
That's possible. That is possible. Emotional damages, particularly if she's really gone off the deep end.
My God.
Which it sounds like she did.
Definitely did. And, you know, like childbirth, especially with the use of surrogacy, can be unpredictable and uncertain. It doesn't always work out for those who attempt childbirth. Yet, with this in mind, Cindy has just fully embraced conspiracy. And since surrogacy agencies are still mostly unregulated, everyone's medical history doesn't need to be disclosed between clients. So that's also like another factor, is that when they went to this surrogate agency, they didn't have to be like, yeah, but like my husband's father had like a heart attack, or I
feel like those disclosures should be legally mandatory.
So yeah, that's like one of those things where I think only I think it's New York is the one state where that is sort of a mandatory thing, but most surrogacy agencies don't require that. That's not across the board. So you don't really have to share that information, which is odd because
it is odd
because the carrier has to disclose a lot about themselves. Right. Yeah.
Well, particularly because if I am the surrogacy agency, if I am the one facilitating this entire process, I would want to protect my own ass legally.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do that would be by making sure that the disclosure goes both ways and everybody fully knows what it is that they are getting into so that they can assume the risk with that knowledge.
And that's what's just sort of crazy about all of this, is that this is the norm for surrogacy so far. And I feel like if you want to prevent any complications from arising out of nowhere, you should probably provide that information to every potential party involved here, so this crazy meltdown doesn't happen. Of course,
right.
Who's to say that if they shared their medical history that this would have been prevented?
Well,
but
right.
I feel like it might have. That's the thing. It's unknown now. Who knows?
Exactly, and you can't say, oh, this definitely would have fixed it, but at least it gives you that little bit of extra confidence that there is not an unknown there.
Absolutely. So Josh, this is where I pulled on a little thread from this article that interested me, that led me down a path I didn't expect. Cindy was just she was the lead here to a little bit of
Cindy's
of an
the appetizer.
World. She was, it's a very
Let's
tragic
get the main
tale.
plate out there, baby. I want that entree.
So there is a line in this Wired piece that stood out to me. It was sort of like glossed over a little bit. It didn't really dig any deeper in this, but I was like, wait, what the hell is this? So I'm going to read this paragraph from the piece.
Okay.
Leon's death was 100%, 1000% preventable, B told me, anguished. Searching for meaning, she started attending Epic Church, known for hosting high-profile VCs. At one discussion, participants talked about when God gives you a mission. B sobbed, I don't want this mission. I want my son. She thought, upon reflecting, though she became hopeful. She thanked God for giving her trauma because he believed she could handle it. I'll do my best to make sure this won't happen to other people, she promised herself. She would become her son's voice. I'll make sure other unborn children are protected. So that's like sort of what she's doing. But I was like, Epic Church? What is Epic Church? I've never heard of this before. Have you heard of Epic Church?
No, but my joke is the first joke that comes to mind is that it's a division of Epic Games. It's like you've got the Epic Store, you've got Fortnite, and then you've got the Epic Church. It's the church where everybody plays Fortnite.
And don't forget related to Epic in Wisconsin, the medical.
Oh, the medical tech company. Yeah. By the way, before you tell me, I did just want to say that particular line of reasoning is one that I have heard many, many times from Christians, and I always find it so upsetting because I just can't ultimately get down with the idea of, God placed this suffering on you for a special reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes shit just happens. And unfortunately, the fact that you have experienced suffering doesn't make you special. And I can say that from personal experience, having gone through quite a bit of suffering.
It's one of those weird things because I think, I agree. I half agree in the sense that trauma can make you a better or more thoughtful person. It can change your perspective on things. So in that sense, I'm like, okay, I sort of know what she means. But when she's like, it was ordained upon me by God, I am now the most important person with only the knowledge I have. Right. It's like, okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I don't think that was meant to happen. I don't think you were meant to suffer. Let's chill. And it's like, she's traumatized. She was suffering. Yeah. So of course she probably will dabble in some delusions. She dabbled in mystics who were like trying to give her psychic visions as to what caused this. Like she was like, it took her, like she's going on the gambit. She's hitting every fucking like everything possible here.
I just think in the long run, hopefully she's able to find her way out of that line of thinking, because I just think it's very, very destructive. I think that it sort of means that the people who have experienced a lot of trauma are somehow like on a higher plane than everybody else because of the suffering that they have experienced. And again, I just don't think that's fucking true.
It's not true. And I don't think it's good for you to engage in. It's very
not,
bad for you.
Because then it just makes your trauma a fetish, right? And it just makes everything that you do about that bad experience, when I think processing it and really moving on needs to involve getting over it. But also, if this was like a year ago, she's going to be pretty, relatively speaking, early on in the grief process too. So, I mean, I feel like maybe I'm judging her grief a little bit too harshly on some level, but I don't know. This has me feeling a lot of feelings. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. The thing is like she sort of crashed out, but it was like a tragic situation, She did really bad and mean and evil things because of this, but hopefully she does get out of it. But I'll be honest, I don't know if she will, given what I know about Epic Church.
Yeah, well, that's that. Okay, let's talk about the Fortnite Church. What's going on over there?
So I saw them, like, they seem very conspiratorial. If people in this Epic Church are like, you're special for a reason, and actually everything happens for this reason, you were meant to suffer. So I was like, okay, Epic Church, let's dig in. Let's find out. So I found out. So Epic Church is an evangelical church led by Ben Pilgreen in San Francisco. It's growing in notoriety due to an increasing amount of politically right-leaning finance tech billionaires that are beginning to attend this church.
Okay, I'm looking him up right now. This is my first time hearing about him. I see that he has a podcast. That's already bad news.
Going to my church and there is a podcast is a great sign. Yeah.
No matter who you are, where you come from, what you do for work, or which neighborhood you live in here in San Francisco, we believe Epic Church is a place you can call home. Here at Epic, we're young and we're old. We are single, we are married. Some of us have young kids, some of us have no kids, and others of us have already raised our kids.
We work in every industry around here: business, education, law, finance, nonprofits, science, venture capital, stay-at-home parents, service industry, and a few of us actually work in tech.
So some of the most notable people in attendance are Gary Tan, who is at Y Combinator, which is just like a tech startup fund.
We've talked about Y Combinator a number of times. That's where Balaji got his start. We'll remember that
right.
His fucking the speech, right, when he gave his big speech about tech's big exit. That was at a Y Combinator summit.
Shit, you're right. Also, Pat Gelsinger, he used to be at Intel. I don't think we've ever talked about him. He's just a very wealthy person. And Trey Stevens, which he is with Andural. Are you familiar with Andural?
No.
It's Palmer Luckey's weapon manufacturing company.
Okay.
Which, if you're familiar, I believe I could be wrong, but I think he used to be at Facebook. He used to be with specifically the Meta goggles or whatever those are called. The fucking
Oculus.
Oculus. He used to be the Oculus guy. I believe he started Oculus and was obtained by Meta, and then ousted for his political views eventually.
Okay. Oh, and I'm seeing Anduril is. What exactly are we doing here? Mostly drone warfare, it looks like.
Exactly, yeah. And of course, Cindy B is also at this church. So great crowd. We have a great congregation here.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person who heads up a drone manufacturer and you're going to a church like this, I can imagine the kind of theology that old Pastor Ben is putting out there.
Oh, absolutely.
It probably doesn't have much to do with the gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Let's put it that way.
No, definitely not. And fairly recently, Trey Stevens has publicly embraced Christianity and specifically Peter Thiel's vision of the world based on his interpretation of the Antichrist and Rene Girard's philosophy. Dude, when I saw this, I was like, there's no fucking way, dude. How is this? It's another one of those moments where I'm putting the fucking string on a board together. Of course, it's all coming to a head in this way. Of course, it's a bigger movement. It's not just Peter Thiel. Of course, it's growing and spreading in this tech circle.
I guess I really, at the end of the day, I shouldn't be surprised that this kind of weird Christianity is making a big inroads right now. But I still kind of am. Because all of these people were epic Reddit atheists a decade ago,
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's the weird thing to me, too, is that they're sort of going very obviously with the winds politically. I sort of understand why. It's I think it correlates this is just sort of what I've seen and the sentiment in tech worlds from how we as the public view them. But I feel ever since our collective tech optimism has begun to fade, I feel tech leaders in Silicon Valley in particular have noticed and sort of as a countervailing mechanism, maybe intentionally, maybe not, have become a lot more reactionary to harden themselves to justify the things they're doing.
I think it's that, and I think it's the fact that the gospel of Silicon Valley for a long time was the guiding religion, both of the valley itself and I think the country more broadly. And now that prophecy is increasingly beginning to fail for Silicon Valley in terms of their own ethos and what they present as being sort of the salvation of the future, they now need to look elsewhere for a cohesive narrative.
And they're seemingly looking towards a very reactionary form of Christianity based upon Peter Thiel, which is so odd. It's so scary to me. There is a lot of great excerpts from this piece, but Josh, if you could read this one for me, I think you would love to read this.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is from a Vanity Fair piece from April. Christianity was borderline illegal in Silicon Valley. Now it's the new religion is the name of this piece by Zoe Bernard. And it says, it's mid-October in San Francisco, and a crowd of 200 or so congregants, some seated in pews, others standing below cathedral windows at the back, bow their heads in prayer. Over cranberry apple cosmos, no fucking way, and plates of Burmese food served by black-shirted waiters. A DJ plays a thumping soundtrack of remixed worship music. This is not a church service or even a Bible study. It is instead an entirely new kind of event in Silicon Valley.
This is epic church, dude. This is what they're doing. They're fucking doing meet and greets. They're doing singles events for these fucking people.
I want to read a little more here. We are
please.
here to listen in on a conversation between Dr. Francis S. Collins, the former director of the National Institutes of Health and the leader of the Human Genome Project, and Gary Tan, the president and CEO of Silicon Valley's influential startup incubator Y Combinator, which has hatched thousands of tech companies with a combined valuation of more than $600 billion. The event is called Code and Cosmos.
I screamed when I first saw that. I was fucking screaming. I was like, these people are so soy. Everything is soy.
And its underlying thesis is that the fields of science and technology, once considered diametrically opposed to religion and spirituality, might converge with the teachings of the Bible. In other words, business networking for the spiritually curious. Hey everybody, Editing Josh here. Just a small point of clarification. This particular event did not actually take place at Epic Church, nor was it hosted formally in affiliation with Epic Church. It was hosted by an organization called Acts 17, which has a lot of ties to Epic Church. And it was held at Gary Tan's house. This shit's buck wild, and we are definitely going to be looking more into these organizations in the future.
It's just like, I don't know, man. Everything that you would expect of these people if they were to embrace religion made by themselves, this is exactly what you would like expect of them.
Yeah.
And like, I went to their YouTube channel. It looks like it's a TED Talk page. It looks like they're giving speeches with like some traditional like evangelical music elements, of course. But it's perfect. If you were tasked to come up with like an evangelical tech first church, you would probably do exactly this. You could probably accidentally create this as like a stereotype, as like a bit.
We are all spirit-led people. The only question is this: which spirit are you being led by? Guys, there's some stuff that does frighten me in this text. Anybody else? I'll just read verse 1 in case you weren't scared the first time. The Spirit says that in later times some, not people without faith, some presently with faith will abandon the faith. Here's who they will follow: deceiving spirits, and this sounds crazy, things taught by demons. And every one of us in this room would say, not me. Well, remember, it's a deceiving spirit, which means what? Which means you and I could think we're on the path of truth and we're on the path to destruction.
This journalist, she interviewed different people in attendance at this Code and Cosmos event. And a common thread is that Peter Thiel is basically the main thought leader of a lot of this crowd and is leading the charge, Peter Thiel himself, in the tech world's embrace of Christian religion as the rightward shift of Silicon Valley continues to advance, which is just so odd to me, because you were right before. It's like all of these people were Reddit atheists. Like I can't think of any other reason than them being like completely distraught by the fact that they were not able to bring us to utopia with their own technology and are facing criticism.
No, I think that's a huge piece of it, because if you are no longer the authority, then you need to appeal to a higher authority, right? And this is classic when prophecy fails type shit. You dedicated so much of your life, right? If you are one of these people, to making the world a better place. And then you look around and all you see is ruin. And when something like that happens, you can do one of two things. One, you can be like, I guess I was wrong. I better figure out where I went wrong.
But that doesn't make money.
Right. And you can't continue to watch line go up forever, nor can you continue to hold on to your presuppositions. So instead, you do a pivot that allows you to maintain most of that ideological scaffolding, and you just layer on some bullshit about Jesus on top of it.
And it's not even, I don't even think it's that they feel like they have purpose, but they have an ideology now. They have like a new ideology. I mean, especially just the last episode we did about Peter Thiel and his underlying like ideology that's driving everything he's been doing for the last couple of decades now is just like a horrific framework. It's a complete antithesis to Rene Girard and like what it means to like actually live in a progressive society or a social society.
It's neo-Calvinism, right? It's the idea that we are the ones who are the elect. We are the ones who have been specially selected. Yeah, there's a lot of bad shit out there, but at the end of the day, you just have to trust us, bro, because we are the ones who have been chosen to make this world a better place, which we're still doing, even if you don't notice it yet.
Yeah. And, you know, with all of this, with fucking Epic Church and this tragic Cindy B case with the surrogate and Silicon Valley's growing obsession with creating the perfect genetic offspring, it outlines the disparity between intended parents and within Silicon Valley, of course, especially, and carriers. It just feels so obvious and so disproportionate, especially as they're like creating this society. This, it's not even a secret society. It's just like an ideological system framework that they're all sort of turning to now.
And I think that there is, in terms of sort of what my discomfort with surrogacy as a practice is, it's this. It's nothing to do with the religious arguments against it that like, well, this is a perversion of the natural order or whatever. No, I don't give a fuck. What I care
perversion
about...
of natural order is kind of cool, actually.
It's based. It's cool and it's based, actually.
Yeah. I wouldn't be transitioning if I didn't think that was the case.
But what I find upsetting is that the type of person who is willing to be paid to be pregnant for a baby that they are not going to have the opportunity to keep is going to be somebody who is in a fundamentally different economic situation from the people who are paying them for that service.
Exactly. I think it's it's a very complex situation.
And I don't know how you account for that. Right? I certainly
I don't either. That's the thing is like this. I'm usually near an end of an episode. And I'm like, well, I don't know, but I truly don't know for this one because it's like I don't want any restrictions on surrogacy. I think what it goes back to for me on this is when it comes to the eugenics of it all, right? Like trying to be like, I want to make sure my baby has blue eyes. I want my baby to have this trait that will make sure that they're genetically pure. That's when it gets into the whole Nazi territory. I think it always just for when it comes to stuff like this, that is where it is the line for me personally.
But it's also the question of labor. And I mean labor in both senses here.
There is a labor sense to this too, yeah.
Right. If pregnancy is a form of labor, right, which in this case, and I think it always is, right, no 100%. Matter what, whether it's compensated or otherwise, when a woman gets pregnant and brings a child to term, that is labor. And there's a reason that when you go into give birth, they call it going into labor. The whole thing is work, and it is taxing on your body, and it has consequences downstream of that as well. But sort of rolling up to a bigger picture look at this stuff, when we're talking about the natalists specifically, what they want is a world in which as many white babies are being produced as possible, right? This is a world in which they see themselves furnishing all of the genetic information that is going to result in, the births of all of these prospective children. There is absolutely 100% a dystopian future in which the people who are carrying all of these pregnancies to term are people who are forced to sacrifice large portions of their life in which they might be doing other things, including potentially having their own children in favor of service to these people who fashion themselves the Ubermenschen, right?
And especially because we do know that a lot of these people, from Elon Musk to a lot of these tech natalists, is they want dozens and dozens of children. They want a legacy. They want an army of children in a lot of cases.
And when you look at some of the most cracked examples of this, for instance, Jeffrey Epstein's plan to have basically a breeding farm on his ranch in New Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
This shit gets really weird really quickly. This is the other thing too, right? Talking about this stuff, it's very easy to be like, well, that would never happen.
I feel like we are, I don't think it's too out there. I think we're closer to something like that than we've ever been. We see attempts being made. I mean, Elon Musk has a fucking estate, large piece of land where he has multiple of his people that have children for him. He provides a community home for these different women. So it's a little out there, but it's there's already some examples of this low key happening.
And I think Elon Musk is an excellent example of that too, because I'm perhaps you saw his excellent tweet this morning at 2:52 a.m.
Oh, I'm sure everyone saw that.
Where somebody named Pub Wangath posted, "It breaks my heart to say, but in order to save this country, we are probably going to have to do things that make women sad." To which Elon Musk replied, "True words."
Oh, what does that mean? I know what that means.
You know exactly what it means.
I know what that means. And that's probably rollback rights for women. Maybe even, let's get a little crazy here. Maybe, I feel like if someone proposed every woman needs to have a minimum of one child by a certain age, or otherwise you will have some penalty, he would probably be in favor of that.
Of course he would.
Yeah.
Of course he would. And these are, at the end of the day, the policies that a decent chunk of the right is seeking to advance. They won't talk about it openly yet. They're generally talking about it in coded language like this. I believe you are going to see them talking about it more explicitly in the coming months and coming years. And I think forced surrogacy is going to be a piece of that conversation. I really do. And that's grim and that's bleak, but and I'm not saying that this is going to happen either. I'm just saying they do want it to happen. And that's the thing that scares this about me the most. Not surrogacy per se, but surrogacy as a means through which to further oppress and disenfranchise people who already find their station in life to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how much more there is to dig into specifically Epic Church and all of the people in there insofar as like what the church is and does. But I think that group in particular is sort of an interesting, just like an addition to the natal con maniacs, as to just observe what they're doing, because like these are very powerful, wealthy people, and they are advancing ideology and religion intertwined, and it's growing, it's spreading at the highest levels of institutions and in the current Trump administration. Like these people have power through this current administration. So it's something I will keep an eye on, and maybe I'll dig a little bit more deeper into this, because it's very odd and concerning. And I'm so glad I'm not glad I found this because I wish it didn't exist, but I'm glad I got to share this with you, Josh.
Oh, it sounds like extremely my shit, and I will be digging into it further for sure.
I thought like we would have found this weeks ago. Like we would, like months ago, this should have fallen our radar. How have we not found this? It's just like endlessly. This is just one of those moments that is just like the endless horrors of our world are just right in front of us. But it takes so much effort to find this shit. It's just right there.
I think a big piece of what it is that it is not something that is immediately, well, let's put it this way, right? You're not going to have focus on the family people going to Epic Church, right? This is kind of a new thing. Like it's not new. It's not really new, right? Bullshit churches that appeal to rich people are as old as time immemorial and in every religion, right? But I think this specific emergence of this specific ideology and this specific form of evangelicalism is a genuinely brand new phenomenon, and I'm very, very excited to start tracking it.
Yeah, no, this is I'm putting this on our board of things to observe, things to study.
I need to get a real cork board up in my room. Just
I've been thinking about that for a while now, and I'm lazy. I haven't done that. I love doing research. I spend hours and hours and hours doing research, but I'm too lazy to get a cork board. I'm so lazy. Yeah. But I think, the biggest takeaway from today's episode about surrogacy is don't ever post through it. Just never post through it. Just don't do it. Just never post through it.
Anything you post can and will be held against you in the court of public opinion. Don't dare do it.
It's dangerous. Very dangerous.
So what are you thinking we're going to do for the B-side this week, June? Are there any threads that you teased out that might be worth checking out further? Maybe we should research Epic Church and talk about them on the B-side a little bit.
You know what? Let's dig a little deeper for Epic Church. Unless there's a full episode about Epic Church, maybe we find something that's like, okay. That's the thing too, is I don't think that it's so early, it's so young. Let's dig a little deeper. Maybe we'll go through this whole article, because there was so much to this that I think is very interesting. But basically, I think we'll dig a little bit deeper into Epic Church on the B-side, which is, of course, on our Patreon. We do bonus episodes on there, sort of very complimentary to the main feed episode.
Complimentary with an E, not an I. You do have to pay for it. Sorry.
But yeah, no, we dig in a little deeper to an episode's topic from the week before. We read some emails about the topic that you will hopefully, I assume you guys normally do, send us to our email.
Yes.
Mailbag. So we just kind of hang out. We dig a little deeper. We talk. We hang out. It's fun.
And alongside that, I think we will pretty soon, if it's not already up by the time you listen to this, we will pretty soon be posting a dramatic reading of at least the first issue of the Zootopia abortion comic. We've been promising it for a while. We realize that we actually have to do it. So, stay tuned for that very, very soon.
I'm sure everyone would love it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. We'll see you next week on the Patreon, and in 2 weeks for the next main episode about Jeffrey Epstein. See ya, babies.
See ya.
Hey everybody, Editing Josh here. If you're still listening to this, congratulations. You get to listen to the first 2 minutes of the Zootopia abortion comic absolutely for free, starting right now.
Come on. Let's go. Sweet cheese. Nick. Nick, come on, wake up.
We're off duty today.
Nick, I have something important to say.
Just text me, please.
Nicholas, I am serious.
Okay. Jeez. When you call me Nicholas, it means that I'm in great danger.
You bet.
And may I take a shower and do other things before you ruin the rest of my day?
Yes, it'd be good, I think.
Wow, I'm feeling much better now. Well, what is this important thing you want me to know?
Nick, I'm pregnant.
Nice try, Fluff. You almost got me. As if it were even possible. Your nose is twitching, so it means... Carrots, are you sure? Is it for real?
Yes, it is. I just took a pregnancy test and...
Judy! Oh, Judy, this is the happiest day of my life! I love you, Judy! I love you so much! You've made me the happiest mammal on Earth!
Nick, please, stop!
Oh, sorry. I hurt you, didn't I?
No, Nick, you didn't. But this isn't the problem.
Problem? You mean because we're from different species, you think our baby might have some problem, right?
That wasn't what I meant.
I don't understand.
Nick, please, don't make things worse for us.
Judy, what are you talking about?
Nick, I don't want this child.
No! I can't believe you said that.
Nick, hear me out.
Please tell me I heard wrong. Why, Judy? Why?
Let me explain, Nick.
So explain yourself. Why don't you want our baby?
There's no baby yet. I'm just in my first month of pregnancy.
And you decided on your own that this is going to be the last month, ain't you?
Nick, let's talk about it like adults. Right? Right?
Okay. Tell your tale.
Thanks.
If that was appealing to you, go check out the rest. Patreon.com/illconceived. Okay, bye.